Now, you mentioned earlier on that sales training, or at least training in general, right?
Hmm.
Specifically, sorry, was a passion for you. But you've also shown a real passion, right? An interest in sales specifically. So this is a very unique thing that I really wanted to explore, which is dwelling in or delving into the why of why you like sales. When did your sales kind of epiphany, just appear in your head?
It actually all started when I was a teenager. Nowadays, I'm very sociable. Um, I'm confident enough to put myself in a group of people and have a conversation, right? But when I was in secondary school, um, I was never ostracized, right? But I was never the most sociable. Yeah, I always struggled with the ability to express, what my thoughts were, what my emotions were, right? I wasn't, well, how would you put it? I wasn't, like I said, socially awkward, but I was just not very social, right?
Mm.
And after a while, I began to realize that I needed to improve these skills. So from a very young age, I already began to go and read up on communication. I went to go read up on expression of thought, expression of emotions, and then as I got older and when I was in university, I began to ask myself, what was I going to do after I left university? Right? I was not really clear. I wasn't really clear. But what I knew that I wanted to do was that I wanted to hone my skills in communicating with people. And after a while, I developed this, this desire to always be communicating, to always be talking, right? And eventually, when I left university, I realized that all that I learned in university, which was in social sciences, right, in psychology, in English language, and so on and so forth, it was actually a good skill set to have, right? And it would be the most well placed in sales. So I went into sales and I tested it out, and I realized that I do enjoy it because in sales, I think every salesperson will tell you the same thing. In sales, every day is a new day. And I'm the kind of a person who gets bored very easily, right?
Mm.
So every day is a new day. Every client is a new type of client, right? Every day the market changes, the market shifts. And then in this present time, every day there's a new competitor on the market. So it's a very involving industry, right? It causes you to always be on your toes. It causes you to always have a great desire to keep on learning. And so what happened for me was that in sales, it was the one place that made me feel that I was constantly upgrading myself, you know. And while we do a lot of corporate trainings, I can see that some people in who are not in the sales department, right? When we do leadership, team building, and stuff like that,
Mm.
they do share with me. They say, Leroy, I've been sitting at this desk for 2 years and I've not really upgraded myself much, right? Every day is the same thing that I'm doing. Every day is the same computer that I'm staring at, the same calculator that I'm pressing. But what's really interesting is that salespeople, they'll tell you, no, every day is a new day. Every day I'm learning something new. And for
Mm.
me, being an academic at heart, um, I love to learn, right? So that's why I felt that sales was a place for me, right? Um, some people ask me, was it about the money? Because salespeople, if you do very well, you can earn good money.
Oh
It,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's a good driver, right? But for me, my strongest driver is the process of learning.
Mm.
So I've always felt that sales is the best industry to learn because you learn about how do you get your points across, how do you structure your sentences, right? That's internally. How do you manage your
Mm.
own emotions when someone rejects you, right? How do you plan your time, right? How do you bring out the best in you even when things are at their very worst, right? That's on your side. On the other side is how do you convince someone? How do you take what they're going through, their values, their goals, right? And then how do you make your product fit in there? It's such a dynamic, right, environment, and that causes you to continuously learn, not only from reading books, not only from going for trainings, but you are also learning in the process of selling, right?
Mm.
So there's just so much learning that you can have in sales. Someone once told me this, right? A great salesperson never goes hungry, right? So I think that's a really good statement. As long as you keep on upgrading yourself, you will never go hungry.
Right.
So
Now,
that's why I went into sales.
that particular point, right, about that client that you had, about saying that he didn't upgrade himself for the last 2 years. Now,
Mhm.
when that's a very broad term. When we say upgrading, right, do we necessarily mean upskilling, or are we talking about honing or sharpening the saw? What are we really looking at when we say upgrading for salespeople?
For salespeople,
Yeah.
okay. So for salespeople, I think when it comes to upgrading, we have always worked with organizations on a very basic fundamental. When you talk about upgrading for salespeople, there are two things to always be looking at upgrading, right? The first one is attitude. The second one is aptitude, right? And it's a very basic standard sales theory that most sales trainers use. So what happens very simply is that we talk about attitude. People need to continuously upgrade their attitude, right? Now, I'm not saying from a bad attitude
Mm.
to a good attitude, but more importantly, it's all about upgrading your attitude so that you are ready for market. Okay. Now, in sales, the market is brutal, right? I'm not here to blow sunshine at anybody and say that sales is a wonderful industry that has got such easy days and everything's wonderful. Every day you wake up with a big broad smile upon your face and go, yes, I'm going to meet my clients, right? No, 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 no. The sales market is a brutal market. Okay, it is a brutal market. And why do I say it's a brutal market? It's because of the fact that competition is heavy,
Mm.
right? You want to buy a watch, you've got hundreds of brands to choose from. You want to buy a computer, it's the same thing. You want to buy insurance, it's the same thing. You've got thousands of agents to go and speak to. You want to buy houses, you've got so many agents to go and speak to, right? So consumers are sport for choice, right? They're sport for choice. That's one. Two, technology has brought sales to a point where salespeople sometimes are at the back foot, right? They're on the back
Mm.
foot. Now, why they're on the back foot is because a lot of times people, before they want to buy something, I mean, what do we do when we want to buy something? We don't go and call a salesperson and ask them to go and introduce it to us, right? We will always do our research first. And now, because the internet is so transparent and so in depth, we can get so much information first. And then we go and talk to the salesperson to just hammer him or her with all the questions that we have based on our limited understanding of what we read on the internet, right? I mean, it's brutal, right? And so salespeople on a daily basis, I mean, I feel for them because I am one of them, right?
Mm.
On a daily basis, we are fighting wars, right? We are fighting wars. So now, when this happens, okay, the question that we got to ask ourselves is this: are we mentally and emotionally, right, ready to manage all of this? Let me give you an example, okay? You see, there are two people in a sales team, okay? Both of them are selling the same product at the same price, okay? Both of them go to market. They go and sell, right? One of them receives 10 rejections out of 12. The other one receives 5 rejections out of 12. Now, the question here is this: who do you think is going to be feeling better about themselves?
Oh, naturally, the one with the higher hit rate.
So the one who got 5 rejections,
Yes, correct.
he will feel better about himself.
Oh, yeah.
Not
I
really.
honestly think that. Yeah.
It well, not really. Why? Because it all depends. You see, the person who had 5 rejections out of 12, he might be so focused on that 5 rejections, and he's going to be feeling horrible about himself. And when human beings, generally speaking, when we feel horrible about ourselves, what do? If we do not know how to control it within ourselves, we will go down the whole, it's my product's fault, it's the market's fault, it's the client's fault, it's my manager's fault, it's my company's fault, right? He had 5 rejections, 7 successes, right? But because he doesn't have the right attitude, okay, of how he
Ah.
responds to the rejections, how he controls his emotions, his capacity to be able to learn from the rejections, right? his knowledge base internally, all of these things, he might actually feel worse than the person who got 10 rejections out of 12. The
Purely
person
because of
who,
the attitude.
precisely, the person who got 10 out of 12 might be going, you know what, I got 10 that told me no. But you know what, I've got 10 very valuable learning lessons. 10 lessons that nobody else has had, but I have. And I'm going to use these 10 because I still believe in myself. I still believe in my product. I still believe in the market. I'm going to use these 10 and I'm going to go out there, hone my skills, learn what I have gone wrong with, and then I'm going to make a difference. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a lot of times, salespeople have always said, oh, for me, if I do well, then I'm a great salesperson. If I do badly, I'm a bad salesperson. That is a very strong reflection of their attitude towards it. So when we talk about attitude, I'm not talking about having a positive attitude, right? The motivational, right? No, I'm not talking about that. I've been invited to do so many motivational sales talks, right, to organizations, and I always tend to tell them, "Can I not do it?"
Yeah,
It's not
that's the
because I
irony,
don't.
right?
Yeah.
Salespeople shouldn't need a motivational talk. Salespeople should already be self-motivated.
Well, that's where I'll jump in again. So what happens here is this, right? Is that I'll tell them that, I'm can I not do it? Because you give me 45 minutes, okay? What I can do is that I can motivate them that they can be better. But salespeople, they know they can be better, like what you have said. They know they can be better. Salespeople are generally motivated. That's why they're in the business, right? They're in the business because they're motivated to succeed. But the problem is that for many of them, they find themselves being motivated, okay? But because of the attitude of how they handle the rejections, how they handle the market shifts, how they handle the competition, all of these things, right, eat into their motivation, right? And after a while, that motivation becomes frustration, you see? And how you plug that gap is this. How to keep somebody motivated is not continuously tell them that behind every closed door, there's an open window, right? It's not to keep on asking them to, say, I can do it, we can, we stand together, let's run.
Toxic positivity.
It's really not about that. Salespeople, the very moment you give them how do you sell, you give them the skills, the strategies, the techniques, you upgrade their mental capacity, teach them how to manage rejections, how to manage emotions, how to handle anything that they go through. And then when they integrate it into themselves, you can have a salesperson that is not performing, but still highly motivated to keep on going. You see? Yep. What we normally see in organizations is high-performing salespeople, highly motivated. Low-performing salespeople, lowly motivated. It's a very common situation. And when you ask them, why are you not motivated to go out there and sell? Why are you looking at the phone and the phone's looking at you, right? Why is your calendar empty? They always say, what's the point? Go and talk and talk and talk and talk. Still no sales. That is a very clear indicator of low performance, low motivated. But what we do with organizations is that we tell them that we come from a psychological approach, right? Where we share with them a bit about, even when you're having low performance, what are the skills and strategies that you must have so that you keep your motivation high? When you keep your motivation high, you naturally take more action. And when you take action, you always get results. It's either a positive result or a negative result. Positive result reinforces your motivation, right? A negative result can frustrate you and eat into your motivation, or a negative result with a strong foundation, okay, can be used as a motivating factor to learn from it. And when you learn from it, you upgrade your skill. And when you upgrade your skill, you feel more confident. When you feel more confident, you become more motivated. So it's about putting all the cogs together so that when the salesperson is going through the crunch, right, they're continuously building themselves even while they're getting rejections.
Right.
So, it's a very in-depth, it's a very intense, learning for salespeople to go through this. right? But once
Right.
they have grasped it and once they've integrated it, it makes them into a very different animal altogether.